I don't understand what it is that clicks in my brain with foundation piecing, because I can't reverse parallel park a car to save my life. Like, I cannot figure that stuff out. I will, like, trip over a bump in the sidewalk. Like, I am not great with that sort of spatial stuff and what's going on around me. But when it comes to foundation piecing, there's just something that clicks.
You're listening to Fussy Cutters Club podcast, a show that gives you permission to cut into the good fabric so you can make quilts you love. And now your host, who believes it's not a crime to love using novelty fabrics, Ange Wilson.
Welcome to Fussy Cutters Club podcast. A super special episode today. We're talking to one of my quilty BFFs, Christy from Quiet Play. If you're unfamiliar with Christy, she is a foundation paper piecing ninja. She has 5 lines, I think, now with Riley Blake Designs. She is the art and creative director for Make Modern magazine, a digital quilting magazine that's been around for a number of years. She's a fabulous human being. She's very funny, has a sultry voice, as you're about to hear. We have bonded over a love of many different and varied things. We've been to Houston Quilt Market together. She is one of my favorite human beings on the planet, and she's about to release a fussy cut challenge for all of us that involves foundation paper piecing. I'm excited for it because foundation paper piecing and fussy cutting is not one of my strong suits, and so I'm looking forward to learning some skills. So let's get chatting. I've just had a blank on who you are.
You forgot my name already. How many years have we been friends?
Obviously not enough. This is Christy from Quiet Play. Hi, Christy.
Yes.
Hi,
Ange.
You're in Toowoomba with Queensland, and I'm in Townsville,
yes.
Queensland. I found out an interesting fact about Toowoomba this week. You guys are number 2 on the top 10 cities in Australia for, drumroll, swearing.
Swearing. Yes. Yep. What a claim to fame. Yeah.
We don't even make the
swearing.
top 10.
I will rein. I know. Well, I'll rein it in. All right. Hey, but we also have lamingtons here. Like, Toowoomba is apparently known for lamingtons.
Oh, really?
I learned that recently.
Oh,
yeah.
I love a good lemming.
So that's better than swearing.
Yeah. I take the lamington over the swearing. But yes, so I thought I was chuckling so hard when I heard it because I'm like, I know, just a little potty mouth that's going to, no.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know who you're talking about.
Me neither. Yeah. So I'm really excited because, enough about swearing, you do foundation paper piecing, which is my arch nemesis.
Yes.
And I point everybody to you for learning about foundation paper piecing because I cannot wrap my head around it. It's actually really easy to do, and it is a really handy technique to have, but it works in reverse, yeah?
It does, because the image is mirror image, because when you're sewing onto the paper, you're sewing onto the printed side, but your fabric appears on the unprinted side. So you're actually like flipping it upside down through the sewing machine, and you actually don't see it come together until the end. So it's like a weird jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And by the end it makes sense, but the process does not make sense.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of I liken it to the quilting equivalent of jump rope because you have to be coordinated to get, and your brain has to work at that right time, and I don't have it. I don't have the whereas
I can't do jump rope, but I can paper piece.
You can paper piece like a fiend, and you are so quick at it. And oftentimes I'm like, I would love us to make the same block, but you paper piece it and I'll traditional piece it and see which one of us is quicker.
Yeah, and see which is quicker.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing with foundation piecing is you don't lose a lot of time in your cutting because your accuracy comes in your piecing, not in your cutting. Whereas traditional patchwork, it's in the cutting. You need to have it accurate and precise to make all your blocks finish beautifully. But with foundation piecing, you're not worrying about bias edges. You're not worrying about having perfect 1/4 inch around the edge of your fabric. And you can use your scraps a lot better. So it's great for a scrappy quilter.
Yeah.
That said, look, I do love a bit of traditional piecing to come back and have that precision. but my heart's always going to belong to foundation piecing.
Yeah.
It's just satisfying.
And you're annoying because you do both well. But
I don't know. I am annoying, but I'm not sure if I do both well.
for different reasons.
Let's just clarify that.
So as well as foundation paper piecing, you're also a fabric designer with Riley Blake Designs, and someone we both respect and admire in the industry once said to us, you'll know you're a fabric designer, a successful fabric designer when you've got 3 collections or more. And how many have you got now?
I have my 5th one coming out this year.
Ding, 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 ding.
So, yeah, number 5 in May. I know, it's a little bit... When the 4th one came out, which is Make, which that's the one in the shops currently, it's a sewing themed line. When that came out, I was like, I passed that magic 3 hurdle. Yep. And then now I've got a 5th one coming out, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I went to Quilt Market and actually debuted that one, which is the first time I've done that. And I didn't have a full booth, but I had like a stand to display my fabrics. And that's the first time I've done that. And that was a lot of fun, actually. Because a whole different kind of challenge.
Well, you and I went to Quilt Market together and we just realised 2017.
Yes.
And
I know,
at that Quilt Market, both of us were like, we're going to be fabric designers. And in a pattern that has mimicked our relationship for the last number of years, you went and did it, and I'm still dreaming of it. And so
I'm not sure that's quite accurate of how we work, but I think you've still got it in you.
Yeah, possibly somewhere. You went and did it, and then so you've come full circle because you were at that one in 2017, you were at the one in 2023, debuting a line.
Yeah.
And so
I know. It was like pinch me. Like it was just it was surreal getting to do that because those are the only 2 markets I've attended. Yep. So I went to that one in 2017 with that idea of, oh gosh, I'd love to be a fabric designer one day, and looking at these booths and just being in utter admiration of the fabric designers. And then to go there last year and to be a fabric designer, it was very surreal and very exciting because with my booth too, I had like a lot of foundation piece blocks too. So I could talk about my passion for foundation piecing and like, share that with more people as well as fabric. Yep. So it's nice to kind of tie those 2 together.
And so this is the Fussy Cutters Club, obviously, and you are an FPP person. Yes. And you, again, have an annoying ability to be able to fussy cut and FPP. So my brain struggles with just FPP, but you have the ability to fussy cut in your FPP, and you do some really cute stuff. Some of your patterns are made specifically for fussy cutting, and I'm thinking about the house that you've got where you can fussy cut someone into the windows and the door.
Yeah.
And then you've got a range of economy square block,
which are perfect for fussy cutting.
Yep. And then you've got... I always like the lighthouse that we did as part of the 1/4-inch quirk.
Yes.
Because I was able to
release
fussy
the
cut.
Kraken?
Yes. I was able to fussy cut a little lady in the doorway waiting for her sailor partner. So fussy cutting's always been featured in your patterns to some extent. The other thing that I found very selfishly I was excited about when you got your fabric line is you tend to make prints that are fussy cut friendly as well.
Yes.
Which I really appreciate.
Because a wise quilter once told me that like the best size for fussy cutting is around 2.5 to maybe 3 inches. And I always kept that in mind because I'm like, I do like fussy cutting. And that very clever quilter knows her stuff when she's talking about fussy cutting. So, you can be selfishly glad for that, but you're actually the reason.
Yeah,
so
I'll take it.
Yeah, you take that credit. And actually, my next line, Bloom, the one that's coming out in May, it's an even slightly smaller scale. And there's like lots of little, because it's Bloom, it's like floral sort of themed. There's lots of little bugs that you can fussy cut, little bees and ladybugs and mushrooms. So it's actually an even smaller scale that will work well. And you have a lot more prints on the fabric. Yep. So you're not having such a Swiss cheese look to your fabric by the time you're done cutting out all the little fussy cuts.
But that's Swiss cheese, because you do let's talk about Make, because it's got my favourite print in it, the scissors, the rainbow scissors.
The scissors, yes.
The good thing about the negative space that's around those scissors is, for example, if you're doing a fussy cut piecing and you want to center that motif, but when you cut it, it runs into the next one or something like that. Because there's so much negative space, you can cut for color in between the scissors and then use those pieces to make your scissors float into a bigger space. And then for stuff like foundation paper piecing, you've got a challenge coming up with TVs, you fussy cutting TVs. Tiny TVs. Oh, now it makes me think of tiny TV snacks.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe you have to eat them while you actually do the challenge. That's part. Or your challenge is don't eat the TV snacks while you make tiny TVs.
No, the challenge is don't get chocolate from the TV snacks on your tiny TVs when you're making them.
So true. Yes.
But it means that, like, if the scissors are in the middle, you can use that negative space colour to fill in the rest of that foundation
as fillers.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's something I tend to do if I fussy cut and, like, you know, I want to just focus just on that fussy cut and I don't want little half broken bits of scissors or worse, if you're cutting like an animal, I don't want like little just heads in my pattern. So if you can use the filler space, that's really good too.
Yeah,
Works
and that's
well for the
how
background.
I maximise the Swiss cheese, because everyone's always like, I don't like fussy cutting because it's Swiss cheese. And you're like, well, no, you just got to think of inventive ways to use
it.
The rest of it.
I'll just add, like, foundation piecing is perfect for using up scraps. So if you have Swiss cheese fabric, you can actually cut those pieces to use, even if it's not featuring a fussy cut from that fabric.
Yep.
Use the colour.
Yep.
Or if it's like a tone on tone, that's brilliant to use in foundation piecing. And so that way you're not wasting fabric. You can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Fussy cutting and using up those scraps.
And I was thinking about you because we have this combined love of a timeless treasure fabric sketch, which is no longer available. Yes. And we both cried when they announced that it was no longer available. But I pulled it out for the first time in ages.
Me too, just the other day.
Yeah, and I was like,
too funny.
Oh, man, I've forgotten how good this is because I've got a rainbow box of it. And so I put it away for the good stuff, and I thought, no, it's time to get it back out.
It's time to use it.
But that tone on tone, you're a big advocate of using tone on tone in your work, and it adds depth and interest and texture to the prints that you're making. Do you, when you design a collection, do you try and balance out the fussy cut motif laden prints with some tone on tone so it's a well-rounded collection, or you don't think about that stuff? Or
no, I definitely think about that, and I love to have a tone on tone if I can, because it's so versatile. Like your fussy cut, like I love a good fussy cut print, but sometimes there's only certain projects you can use it for, like makers or sewing themed. So you might not want to put a little sewing machine print on a baby quilt. I mean, you know, unless you're giving it to a quilter. But tone on tone, you can use in anything. It doesn't matter the theme. It works in really well. And it's just, especially with foundation piecing, tone on tone is perfect because you don't need to match anything. Like, you know, particularly if there's not, like if it's just a sort of more random print, you don't have anything to match because you have a lot more seams in foundation piecing than you do traditionally piecing. So you can use it up really well there. And it looks cohesive at the end. Even if there's a seam running right through it, if it's the tone on tone, it works well. I'm also a big fan of solids, which I like to, in each of my collections, I have a list of Riley Blake confetti cotton solids that match with it, and those pair beautifully with the collection. One, I like to have a really big rainbow. Like we both love that. We both love a lot of colours. We're not just a 7-colour rainbow. We're like all the colours. The more the better. So if I can add solids into my fabric collection and that just builds out a really big rainbow, in my foundation piecing I can have a lot of colours. But I also recommend solids in foundation piecing because there's no right or wrong side. So how we were talking before, how you feel like you're sewing a bit backwards, you don't have to worry about which is the right side of the fabric, which is the wrong side, because there isn't one with solids.
Yeah.
So I love my prints. I love my tone-on tones. I love my solids. I just kind of like fabric.
Yeah.
So,
Me too.
yeah. Yeah.
Me too. Over the years, we've done a lot of discussion about what fabrics out there, who's brought out what, whether it works, what it doesn't work.
Favorite prints.
Yep.
Yes.
And we have overlap of stuff we love, but we're still very different in how that plays out in our work.
Yes.
And so that's always been really nice to have, I would say, complementary styles,
Absolutely.
not necessarily competing styles. Now, you gave a tip there that was really good for beginner foundation paper pieces that I had never thought about is there is no right or wrong side to solids. So they're really, if you're just starting out in foundation paper piecing and you're looking to understand how it works and wrap your head around it, solids are a really great place to start. And
Absolutely.
then you talk a lot about how many more seams there are in foundation paper piecing. But that's the beauty of FPP is that you can create a lot of pictorial blocks where they depict a picture over a traditional patchwork, geometric based. So is that what attracted you to FPP or?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I think initially, it was probably one of my very early projects in the first year of quilting when I found a pattern I liked with foundation piecing. It was a cute little bird. And I was like, I am onto this because it wasn't a shape I could create with squares and rectangles. So I love that I can get these whimsical, quirky designs without having lots of tiny 1-inch squares that I have to cut and try to press in. Don't get me wrong, there are some tiny, tiny pieces in my patterns because there's a fine line between getting that detail in foundation piecing and having an excessive amount of seams. It's a bit of it's a very fine line to walk. So sometimes there are tiny pieces, but foundation piecing is a bit more forgiving. So you can actually, because you don't have to necessarily sew with a tiny 1-inch square. You could maybe use a 3-inch square and then just cut the excess off. So you have lots of seams, but the benefits are you can get some really cool designs. And you can even get a circular look in your design, in your block, without sewing curves. It's all straight lines. Foundation piecing is all straight lines. It's sewing by number. And you can get really cool designs from it, which you wouldn't think at first when you first look at it. But it just opens up a whole world of patterns because you can have a design on any theme that you can imagine.
And there are people.
There are. Everything under the sun.
Yep.
Pretty much I once had a commission to make a pattern for a wood plane. The tool the carpenters use?
Yep.
I never thought I'd be designing that, but I had someone approach me and say, I really need this for a carpenter friend. I was like, okay. And it's probably not something you could do in traditional piecing to get the detail. With foundation piecing, that it really opens up a range of designs and patterns that you can make for your next themed block, or themed quilt.
So in my head, as a traditional piecer, it goes foundation paper piecing with solids, foundation paper piecing with so that's the basic entry level, then foundation paper piecing with prints, just where they fall. So that's step 2. So step 3 on the ladder is foundation paper piecing with fussy cuts. And
yes,
you are running a challenge that kicks off today, and we've got the links for people and everything, so they can go and find it out. And you're going to teach them how to fussy cut and foundation paper piece. I am taking the challenge because, quite frankly,
excellent.
I am a little bit challenged and I need the help. Can you tell me what your top tip, without giving away too much, is there something that you're like, this changed my way of foundation paper piecing and fussy cutting?
Oh, that's a big ask.
I know.
So I think a couple of things, and probably my biggest tip and this applies definitely to fussy cutting, but for any foundation piecing, use a bigger piece of fabric than you think. Don't try and scrimp and save and just cut to the perfect size. Give yourself more space to work with. And like we were talking before about prints that have some negative space, that's perfect because you have enough space around to allow you to put it in the place you need, or even shift it around if you want it to not be perfectly in the center, or make Angie twitch if it's a little bit off center. You could do that.
Or upside down, or
upside down. Just please don't chop any animals' heads off when you do it. Like, try and keep them in centered. But I think that's one of the biggest things that I find helpful with foundation piecing and with fussy cutting. Just give yourself some wiggle room. It makes your life so much easier. But look, with the challenge, I have videos walking you through on, like, you know, talking about the fabrics, like we've talked a little bit about today. I've got a video on how to fussy cut in your foundation piecing. Like, sometimes it's very easy. It's the very first section in your pattern, and you can just put it down, pin it in place. You know it's going to be perfect. But sometimes you have a pattern where the fussy cut piece is not the first one. So you've already got a few seams and you have to work at a bit of an angle. So I'll also be showing how you can do that, just to give a bit of an idea how you work with angles in foundation piecing. And I think that's probably where we're moving to a more advanced level in foundation piecing with fussy cutting, is when you have those angles and you have to place the fabric in the right place to fold it back to land where you want it, particularly for fussy cutting.
Yeah,
but it's doable.
That's
it's
the bit that trips me up.
Yeah.
But I've never invested the time in learning either. And so that's the thing that I think. I can't complain that I don't get it and I don't understand it when I've never tried to get it or understand it.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to try this. Plus the TVs are super cute.
And they're little.
Tiny TVs, I think is...
Tiny TVs from 4 inches up to 8 inch square.
Yeah.
Which means, like, in the 4 inch block, which is the one we'll be making in the challenge, you can use a fussy cut fabric piece that measures around 3 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall. So you can get some of those really cute prints. And then after the challenge is done, I will have the additional sizes available. So if you find a perfect print in your stash that you're like, I need to fussy cut this and it's huge, then the 8 inch TV might work perfectly. It's just like if you go to Harvey Norman and there's TVs in all those different sizes. That's what we're doing.
Don't mention that. The husband is lobbying hard for a new TV at the moment.
We give him a fabric one. Here you go, honey. Here's a new TV.
I'll fussy cut some Star Wars in the middle.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Happy birthday.
Oh, Struth, yeah, his birthday is coming up.
Yeah, look, I've just solved all your problems.
Oh, yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
So much cheaper than a new TV.
Oh. Except I have the foundation paper piece for it. That's how he'll know I love him. So,
right. That is the epitome of love.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
It's always funny because I am very envious of the quilts that you make, but I can't get past my fear of foundation paper piecing. And we've been mates for a long time. So Australian. We've been mates for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's like seeing a magician perform. I don't necessarily want to know how you do it. I just like looking at the end product.
Just like the results.
Yeah, because, and I know this isn't fussy cut related, but you've made some, like your Pattern Club quilts are amazing. They're all themed.
Oh, thank you.
What are they? They're 12 blocks, Pattern Club, all on a specific theme.
Yes.
Plus a setting layout.
To actually make it into a quilt.
Yeah. And I have yet to see one that someone in the club has made where it doesn't just stop you in my tracks. Like the patterns, the motifs that you choose, the way that you put them together, there's just something really special about it. And now you're doing the Make Mine Mini.
Yes. Which the membership.
Yeah. And so a similar thing, is it? Tell me about it. Sell me on it, baby.
Sell you on it. Oh, because I have 7 years and I haven't sold you on foundation piecing, but I'm working on it. It's a slow burn.
A real slow burn.
Really slow. So Make My Mini. So I will go back a little bit. With foundation piecing, one of the things that often puts people off is it takes a bit longer. It can be time consuming because there are more seams. You've got more sewing to do. So unless it's like a quite simple block, it's going to take a bit of time. I'll just add in the challenge, the TVs took me 15 minutes to make a block. So they were nice and quick But if you're talking something like the Pattern Club, some of those can take hours to make one block. So when you're making a whole quilt, there is a lot of time going into that. And for me, I like sometimes like a quick finish. I like to have something done and go, look what I did today. Like, I've been productive. I've made something cool. And that's why I came up with Make Mine Mini. So it's a monthly membership and it's about mini quilts. So it's literally one foundation piece block that you can turn into a mini quilt. And I have it in various sizes, starting at 15 inches and sort of going up so that you can have the mini quilt size that you like. And then because it's Make Mine Mini, it's not just mini quilts. I also have a companion pattern, which is smaller, and that's 5 inches up to 10 inches. And that's just a little one-off. Make it into a mini quilt, put it into another project, make a cushion, a pillow, a tote bag, whatever you like. It's just a little extra that's sort of like a companion pattern to the mini quilt. But the big thing there is it's doable. Like, you've got a whole month and you can make a mini quilt and you can go, look what I've done. Whereas with a pattern club, which I love the pattern clubs, but if you really want to sink your teeth in and have a big project, then we do that over 6 months. So it doesn't feel so overwhelming to create a foundation piece quilt. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Big projects, small projects, all the foundation paper piecing.
Plus, the Make Mine Mini is perfect for anyone who's entering mini quilt swaps too. Like if you're big in the swapping thing. Plus, you don't have to turn them into mini quilts. You can turn them into cushions or pillows, depending on which side of the hemisphere you're on. And so there's lots of versatility. You can use them in bag making as well, so do panels on like a weekender or, all of that.
Yeah, or put them into a quilt if they fit a particularly themed quilt.
Yep.
The beauty is the patterns are PDFs, they're digital. So once you've got the patterns, they're yours to keep forever. You don't have to make it the month that it's current. You can save it and come back to it later. Like, you might go, oh my goodness, I have the perfect project and I need a gnome pattern. And ta-da, there's one that's been in Make Mine Mini and that's yours and you can make it whenever you want. So I think the big thing about Make Mine Mini is just having that option to make something on a smaller scale and a bit quicker and to have a finished product. Because that's one of my favourite things is to get to the end and go, look what I made.
Yeah, like, and you're annoying.
I've been busy today.
Because we can do... So we've established
I'm annoying.
Yeah, but so am I. So we cancel each other out.
That's why we're friends.
Because you'll go, I'm going off to sew, and I go, yeah, me too. And I'll make like 2 blocks, and you'll come back, I made all of this. And I'll be like, holy,
I made 3 quilts.
like, okay.
Look, I don't know if that's particularly a benefit of foundation paper piecing, but I'm not having to spend time cutting fabrics precisely, which that's a benefit.
Yeah, well, I did so my mum now does she's our chief financial officer, and she's on at me to record how long things take me so we can properly cost stuff. And
that takes the fun out of it.
Oh, right. I'm not a lawyer.
Come on,
I don't have billable hours.
Right.
But I was sewing blocks for a sampler, surprise, and I timed how long it took me from start to finish to make 10 blocks. Yeah. And admittedly, I'm fussy cutting, so obviously I'm spending time auditioning fabric, but it took me 4 hours to do 10 blocks. And so if there's 100 blocks in the quilt, that's 40 hours just on the blocks themselves. And so I love that you can push out a TV in 15 minutes because I can't do – someone's got to do the math. Hang on.
Oh, I can't math this.
No.
This is why foundation paper piece, I don't have to do quilt maths. It's great.
Oh, I need Grant and his degree in maths to come down here.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure 4 hours divided by 10 – hang on, 4 by 60.
Oh, I've got nothing. Yeah. Work it in minutes.
It's 24 minutes a block, right?
Okay.
So that's from cutting fabric to piecing to ironing to sticking it on the design wall, 24 minutes. And you did a TV in 15.
It is only a 4-inch block. Let's just add that in.
These are only 8.
Okay, I've got nothing. I'm trying to help here. Like, work with me.
I told you I was annoying. Yeah, but I'm like, that's the thing that always blows my mind is because I go, I don't want a foundation paper piece. It takes too long. But the reality is they're very comparable in time.
Very similar.
Yeah. And so
it depends on the complexity of the pattern. Because that said is I've got others that are quite detailed. In my previous pattern clubs, they were sort of more an advanced level for under the sea and in the garden. And some of those might take me 3 to 4 hours for one block. So it depends on the pattern, but you know, you've got a huge range of things that you can do. And there's ways you can speed it up. Like, you know, like I pre-cut my fabric ahead of time. I don't cut it perfectly to size. I rough cut it and then I stack it in the order that I'm going to piece. And I do that for every section as I'm piecing. So it just streamlines the process. So there's little tips and tricks you can do like that do speed it up a little bit. And, you know, like when you're traditional piecing and you can chain piece, I know people who chain piece when they foundation piece. So if there's like a particular block and the motif is repeated across the blocks, then they will make the same one like a chain piece sort of style. And that speeds things up too. So, you know, it's probably one of the biggest complaints I hear is foundation piecing takes a while, but, you know, traditional piecing can take a while too, depending on the block. It comes down to the pattern and the complexity.
A farmer's wife block that has 72 pieces in a 6-inch block, it's going to take time. Like it's not. And so I think, but that's the beauty of quilting, right? Because some people will put out a pattern that's really simple and you can knock one up in a weekend and have it done and gifted and that's amazing. And then there's other patterns where like the Dear Jane or the La Passe or something, you know, super complicated and people spend years completing them. Yeah. But then they've achieved that and there's everything in between. And so, and it's one of the things I think I'm very selfish and very happy to have a quilty friend that makes something so different to what I do that I get to enjoy and bask in the glow of watching you knock over these quilts because you are prolific. And I know you're like, oh, I just get in and I do it and I work my to-do list and I'm like, but you are prolific. Like
prolific and annoying.
Annoyingly prolific.
There we go. Combine them.
But I think that's a testament to the fact that you love it, right? And so that joy is there and you have that love of fabric and love of print and love of design and
colour.
Colour.
Yeah.
But we haven't even touched on –
for days.
I know. I'm looking at – you've got trees stuck to your design wall, not literal trees but FPP trees, which are very cute. We haven't even talked about the stuff where you do fussy cutting for like fur or leaves or, you know, where you use the print to give the illusion.
To create the texture.
Yeah.
And
so there's times where you've done stuff. You've got a mouse pattern that's coming out now that's super cute. And we'll have links to all of this. But again, it's one of those ones where I think like a Carolyn Friedlander texture-based print in grey would look super cute.
Absolutely.
The fur.
And you'll laugh because when I was auditioning fabrics, that's when I pulled out the sketch fabric because I was like, oh, this would work well. But the only thing is sometimes you've got to pick carefully what you do because if there's a bit of a directional print to it, like there is with sketch because it's like a grid almost, like an organic grid, but it's still there. If you piece that into a foundation piece pattern and all the lines are going or skew with angles, it detracts from the pattern. So in my mouse, I use sketch on the tummy where it's just like a straight part, but the actual grey of the mouse I did with one of my prints from a previous collection that just has little hexes scattered across it. But look, it's not to say you can't do it. But this would sort of come back. It's a version of fussy cutting. You're not highlighting a certain part of the print, but you are planning where the print will go when you're foundation piecing. And it can be done with directional fabric in paper piecing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to take you longer and it's going to take more fabric.
But it's that thing of training your brain to see it that way and to understand I'm not spatially aware, and you and I have a little guilty habit that joins us together, that we used to play computer games together, and you are well aware of how unspatially aware I am.
And I was usually following you over a cliff, so I'm right there with you on the spatial awareness.
And so I think with me and FPP, I struggle because it's working in the reverse, the mirror image, and then having to flip stuff over, and it's just one step too far for my brain. But I wish I could do it, because I've seen you pattern match across foundation paper piecing stripes.
That's like the best achievement ever. Like, if I can get a gold star, it's when I can make my print stripes match across a seam. Like, that's like eating a block of chocolate. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
That was without feeling sick and guilty afterwards.
And no weight gain.
Yeah, right? Yep. So it's way better.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can match the seams, which look, you can do. I do think it's not the traditional definition of fussy cutting, but it is.
It's intentional.
Where your print is, it is an intentional way of placing your fabric and planning where it's going to go. And look, I think if you have the time and the willingness to spend on it, you can do those things. Like, it's funny when you say, like, you have no spatial awareness. Neither do I. That's why I don't understand what it is that clicks in my brain with foundation piecing, because I can't reverse parallel park a car to save my life. Like, I cannot figure that stuff out. I will, like, trip over a bump in the sidewalk. Like, I am not great with that sort of spatial stuff and what's going on around me. But when it comes to foundation piecing, there's just something that clicks. And I also think it's very much a case of the more you do it, the more it becomes muscle memory.
Yeah.
And your brain just goes, oh, yeah. And so, like, if I've taken a break and done a traditionally pieced quilt for a couple of days, and it's been a little bit before I foundation piece, then I'll have those moments where I'm hanging out with my seam ripper because I've placed a piece of fabric wrong. It just takes that moment for your brain to go, that's right.
It's like Shakespeare. Piecing. It's quilting's version of Shakespeare. You need a few minutes for your brain to adjust to the language.
To adjust.
And get back into that rhythm. Yes. But you inadvertently hit on something else then when you were saying, and I hope people picked it up. If I've sewn a traditional patchwork for a couple of days and then come back to FPP, you are sewing FPP all the time. Like, it's not like you go weeks without quilting or patchworking, or so you are in it all the time. Like, I often jokingly refer to us as professional sports people because we are constantly working on our craft.
Always training and honing our skills. Absolutely.
But that's the key, right? If you want to get good at anything, you have to spend and invest the time. And so one of the things that you offer people is there's a beginner's foundation paper piecing course. Yes. Where you share your tips.
Foundation paper piecing made easy.
Yeah, you share your tips and tricks.
That's what I want it to be. Yeah.
And that's the thing that I find really frustrating with me is it is easy if I sit down and spend the time on it. But because I spend so much time in traditional patchwork, I can do that on autopilot to a large extent. And so transitioning between traditional patchwork and foundation paper piece, I have to use my noggin. And quite frankly, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
And so
I understand that.
If I was a hobby sewer, then I think I would totally swim in both pools. Like, I would go, oh, yeah, I'm going to make this. Oh, no, I'm going to make, I'm going to do this quilt here. Because your Under the Sea quilt nearly had me foundation paper piecing because I was like, it's just so beautiful. And you did a Galaxy one?
Galaxy, yeah, with and they're more traditional style blocks, but all foundation piece.
Yep. And so, like, you've done a really good job of tempting over the years. And I think if I was a hobbyist, then I would dabble there and I would dabble there. But it's the same reason I'm not a quilter and I send all my stuff to Rayleigh to Long Arm. Is to me that's a very specific skill set.
Absolutely.
And you invest the time to build that skill set. And if you want to be good, you have to invest the time.
You have to put in a bit of time. And it's like anything. You're not going to be good the very first time you do it. Like, you might magically make it work brilliantly. But with foundation piecing, if you follow along and cut your fabric to size and everything, you will end up with a block that looks like it should by the end. But you do need to invest a bit of time into it. And just let your brain build up that skill as well and just sort of practice it. And don't dive into something really complex because that will put you off. You dive in pardon the pun, but like my under the sea, if you were like, oh, I'm going to sew that one, and it was the most complex block in there, and you're dealing with teeny pieces and, all the rest, then you're going to walk away from it and go, I can't foundation paper piece. When it's actually not the case, it's just you haven't built the skills first. You just need to have some of those basics under your belt before you sort of dive into the more complex ones. I will add, as a caveat to that though, is once you've got the technique, you can tackle any patterns. Once you've figured out how it works and flipping the fabric back and all the rest of it, then and how to join your sections together and match your seams, then you could still consider yourself a beginner. You might have only been doing it for a few months. You can still tackle a complex pattern. Yeah. Because the process is exactly the same. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. And, the same with traditional piecing, right?
Yeah.
You could make a 9-patch. It's the same skills to do some of the bigger ones.
It's probably harder with traditional piecing because with FPP, the foundational skills don't change. The technique you use doesn't change. But with traditional piecing, if you throw into the mix a Y seam or a partial seam or anything that's not like a straight line, so if you're going to do 60-degree triangles where they have to be offset a little bit when you stitch them together, and so you have to understand how to place those pieces, I feel like traditional, and it might be just bias on my point, but I think the core skills for traditional are quite a bit more extensive.
It's a much bigger range
than the core skills for FPP because, as you said, it's transferable across everything. You're just refining and understanding how to line up those pieces a little bit so that when you flip it back, you've covered all of the piece that you need and that the print's lined up how you would like it and all of those sorts of things. So it fascinates me. And I think I could spend hours talking about, what you do in FPP and what we do in traditional. And one of the things we tried with 1/4-inch quirk was to mix foundation paper piece with traditional.
Yeah.
And no pressure, but I'd love to revisit that again in some ways because I am completely different now in my skill set to where I was when we first started. But
yeah, same.
I think the other thing is you have, 300 and something patterns?
It's up there. Yeah, it's edging up there. Prolific. Probably close to 400 these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love designing them as well as sewing them.
On a nerdy thing, have you realised that your pattern count nearly mirrors your mount count in WoW?
No, I did not.
Do you like
you to notice that?
Do you like to collect stuff? No, I don't.
Maybe.
So if someone was listening, and I hope someone is listening, just, I hope someone's listening. No.
Please listen. Hi, Mum.
Hey, Grant. If someone's listening who is keen to, I haven't put them off FPPing and they're keen to get going, we'll put together some links of some easy beginner patterns that you've got, and of course the beginner's course, so that they can get across that and learn those skills. Is there a pattern that you kind of off the top of your head go, that was my gateway pattern? That was the...
I actually have a free pattern that you can download, and I've got a video tutorial that goes with it to teach you how to foundation piece. It's just the surface level basics to get you started, and it's a heart on a spool. So you can start with that, and we all like spools and we're quilters, right? We like thread. So it's just a little heart on a spool, so it's a cute pattern and it comes in a range of sizes. And there's a step-by-step video to watch and get you started. So that's just the basic one that you can start with and see if you like it. And then if you're really kind of enjoying it, that's when you can jump into the Foundation Paper Piecing Made Easy course, because that's where I will give you all my hints and tips. I will tell you how to deal with angles, how to join sections. We go from like picking fabric and reading patterns all the way to completing a foundation piece quilt in the course. But start there, start simple. Like I've got free patterns in my shop as well, because I just want people to get a feel for what foundation piecing is and give it a go. So I'm working to make it as accessible as possible to everyone. So free video, free download, get started. And then, we can put together like a listing of some of the easier patterns. I have had complete beginners make their very first project my vintage geometric sewing machine. And so it's a silhouette of the vintage machine and it's broken into like geometric sort of shapes. And usually I make it in rainbow in color order, because that's my favorite. But I have had absolute beginners use that as their first project. I would probably suggest starting on something a little easier just for your first couple of goes. But then, like I said, once you've got those skills, jump on in and give it a go. You'd be surprised at what you can achieve once you've figured out those basic skills of how to do it.
And people really love it. Like, really, those people that fall in love with FPP are like FPP diehard
fanatics.
Yeah, they're like the Swifties of the quilting world.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, because the ability to make something that looks like something else is really addictive, like to be able to make that in fabric. And there are some amazing artists out there that are making full-size picture quilts and things like that. And so I often chuckle because I remember my math teacher going, "You'll need this geometry when you get older," and thinking, no, I won't. And now all I do is make geometric shapes day in, day out. But with FPP, you get the world essentially to play with. And so that's really exciting. And I hope people walk away from this episode going, I'll give it a crack. And then
give it a go.
Have fun with their fabrics and what they buy, and start thinking about, what's going to look good as a bark for a tree trunk, what looks good as the wooden handle on that wood plane that everyone's going to rush out and make. What looks like metal in fabric, what looks like – because it is essentially like mosaicing with fabric in –
It kind of is.
Yeah. Or collage.
Yeah, and just, picking out the perfect background that's not going to compete with the feature of the block, but complement it. It's like that in traditional piecing. It's picking the fabrics is half the fun. But foundation piecing, you can just take it to that little next level, because you're making a picture. So you can choose the fabrics that fit that. You might go pick up a sparkly fabric that you can use to represent something that you want to really highlight in your block.
Yeah.
So just add, not at all responsible for any stash acquisition after this discussion, but,
look,
doesn't hurt to have options.
Here's my thing, and this is the controversial opinion for this podcast, but no one said to Michelangelo, you only need 3 chisels. I don't want to see you have any more chisels than 3. That's it.
Or limit how many paint colours he had?
No.
Did they say no?
No one said to Van Gogh, look, sunflowers, just a plain yellow, mate. That's all you need.
Yep. 1 yellow,
1 brown, 1 green. You're done. And
done.
That's the same with our fabric. I'm like, I think there is responsible stash acquisition. I am not advocating that anyone bankrupts their family to buy fabric. But if you're an artist, and we are, and it's a personal bugbear of mine when people are like, it's just handcraft. I'm just doing it. No, mate, you are creating art that is specific to you.
Creative.
If you need,
with your stamp on it.
Yeah. If that's how you're going to translate someone else's pattern is through the fabrics you use, knock yourself out. Buy what makes you happy, add to your stash, get rid of the stuff that's not making you happy, Marie Kondo it with gratitude, give it to somebody else. But your stash is your palette. So go have fun with it and be open to what possibilities are in that stash. So
Yeah.
with that out of the way, let's annoyingly talk about another feather in your cap. You are the art director, creative director for Make Modern
Creative director
magazine.
Yes. Yep, which is a digital magazine. We're in our 10th year.
Which is amazing.
Which it's incredible, right? I'm like, it's hard to believe we're coming into it's our 10th birthday in September. So Make Modern, it's by quilters, it's for quilters. Every issue is over 100 pages. We have 10 projects every issue and they vary. You'll find some foundation piecing in there. You'll find plenty of traditional. We have applique, curves. We try and cater to all tastes, different levels from beginner through to advanced. Plus, added to that, we have some really cool columns and a bunch of articles. Our editor writes some beautiful articles in the magazine. We also have a gallery for a bit of like quilty eye candy where we focus on a theme and we share things that other people have made and include links so that you can go, if you get inspired and want to make it yourself. The magazine comes out every 2 months, so you can get 6 issues a year. You can buy just one issue, try it out, or you can subscribe and come and join us, and make it your next quilty read.
Yep.
So because you can read it wherever you are in the world. It's a PDF. As long as you can access a PDF, you can access Make Modern. You don't have to wait for it to arrive in the mail. It doesn't take up any room in your sewing room, so more room for fabric, just saying.
I'm going to,
yeah.
On the podcast, you got to tick if it's an explicit content on there, right? Which I cannot find a list of what constitutes explicit content, so I just always tick yes. Yeah. But I think on this one, we should have an enabling content. Just tick enablers. Yes. Here we are. But yeah, so Make Modern has run the odd fussy cut column, the fussy cut article, fussy cut
done a gallery on it as well.
Yep. Yeah. So big advocates of the fussy cut world. Yay. And I wrote a column for Make Modern for a couple of years.
You're with us for
ages.
And you've contributed beautiful patterns as well.
Yep. One of my first ever magazine patterns was with Make Modern, and it's still one of my favourites.
Yeah.
So it's an Australian born but international magazine, 10 years old, and I'm not spoiling it by saying that you guys are just going from strength to strength, right? It's not like you've reached the limit of how much stuff you can share on the magazine.
It's creativity, it's inspiration, it's quilts, like that. There's not a finite end to that. So there's always something we can share about. There's always a topic we can use for a gallery. There's a topic for an article that we can share about, or something in one of the columns. Yeah, there's a lot in each magazine. We put our hearts and souls into it. There's quite a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, but here we are 10 years later. So we still love it.
Yeah.
So we're still here 10 years on.
I know, when lots of magazines have shut up shop, like publishing houses have closed down in this space while you guys have been in business. I'm not saying those two things are connected, but
your own conclusions.
So you guys have got the longevity there. And I think, did I read it correctly? The cost of a mag is less than a cup of coffee? Is that?
Or it might be around it.
Yeah.
Because we offer it in both AUD and USD. So you can shop in Australian dollar or you can shop in US dollar. And even if that's not what your preferred currency, it'll automatically convert it at the checkout too. But yeah, I mean, you can get a subscription for like, you're going to test my memory, for like 50 US for the year. Yeah. And that's like 6 magazines in there.
Yeah.
So
which if there's 10, say there's 10 projects, minimum 10 projects in every episode, every issue, and then it's costing you $11, say $11 for an issue.
$11.95 because we've just put our prices up. It's one of the first times we've done a price increase.
So say $12.
I think we've done it. Yeah,
right.
It's like $12.
That's $1.20 a pattern. $1.20 a pattern.
Right. And you're supporting indie designers.
Yeah.
Like our contributors vary every issue. We have different contributors. So you're getting to try out different quilting patterns and finding new to you designers, which is a really fun benefit too.
And you guys pay really well, which is something that we don't often talk about in the industry because we're women and we don't like talking about money, which is crazy because we're all in business. But you guys actually pay contributors really well and have really generous terms around how long before you can individually sell those patterns if you contribute and stuff like that, which is great because it is a reflection of the core motto of Make Modern to support pattern designers and support the industry and help grow our industry, which again is another thing that runs behind Quiet Play as well, because your goal is to go out there and convert everyone to FPPing.
Yeah, if I can.
Yeah. My goal is to
put them
stop
off
you
with this chat.
So it's a really lovely full circle. You are completely immersed in the quilting industry. You love it. You support it. We love you for it. I personally adore you. And thanks for joining me. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you for having me. So, especially when we're talking about foundation piecing, it's not your favourite. So thank you.
No, but you humour me by making your fabric fussy cut friendly and fussy cut friendly patterns. And I hear there might be a gnome in the works. And
potentially,
yeah. A lot of stuff you've done for me over the years that I'm very grateful for. But yes. So thanks for coming. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
And everyone rush off, join the challenge because that's where I'm going. I'm looking forward to sharing some of my tiny TVs.
Tiny TVs.
With everyone.
I can't wait to see them.
Yeah. Lots of animal butts.
Oh, great. Can't wait. I don't know which is worse, animal butts or decapitated heads. Pick one. I await your TV with both in it.
I'll be the National Geographic of tiny TVs. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And have that awkward conversation. Mum, what are those animals doing? They're just hugging.
Yeah, no.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Fussy Cutters podcast. Enjoyed listening? Why not subscribe so you'll never miss an episode? Did you know the quickest way to the heart of any podcaster is to leave a review or recommend the podcast to a friend? It's true, it is. Until next week, get out there and fondle that fabric.